Okay, so this is day two of Money When Money Destroys Nations. Gonna read some more stuff out of here. This is getting into some like personal stories and different things and anecdotes that happened in Zimbabwe and some pretty fascinating stuff. So I'm gonna read a section here about pensions because we're very pension dependent, particularly in Canada, and so I think this is kind of relevant uh, to what we might be getting ready to experience in the years going forward. So here's a story. My dad's friend was a partner at a legal firm, having worked there for 50 years. Well, it's a pretty long time, and if you're a partner at a legal firm, you probably got a fair amount of money stored up. So for that entire period, he had invested his retirement savings with Old Mutual. With hyperinflation, his retirement savings were decimated. Old Mutual sent him a letter saying that it wasn't worth paying him monthly, so they paid out the entire amount in bulk. With that payment, his entire life's pension from a law firm, he bought a jerry can of fuel. Let me read that again. With that payment, his entire life's pension, he bought a jerry can of fuel, something that today would be worth, what, $50 for, one of the 5-gallon jerry cans of fuel right now. I haven't filled one up in a while, but how much is it a gallon? Well, it wouldn't be $50. It would be 30 anyway. So, not very much for a lifetime of savings, right? So this is, and I talk about value a lot, and I talk about how the dollar isn't a proper measurement and all these things. And the insidiousness of this slow creep of inflation that we experience here, which is picking up in real time right now, but what we normally experience is easy to slough off because it's subtle and we can't really detect it without doing a lot of hard work and math and measuring. Even though that's a good exercise to do, we just don't do those things. People are too busy working and getting their check and doing what they have to do to pay the bills and get up and do it again the next day. So most people just don't have the impetus and the desire to look that deeply into things that they don't perceive as affecting them deeply. But my point I was just making, I was talking about the book with my accountant just now, and because he's actually from Africa. He's from a neighboring country. He's from Zambia, and so I was talking to him about it, and I said, the thing is that what the study of hyperinflation does for you is it shows you when you compress that. Like think about a lifetime here under typical inflation, this 2, 3, 4% target that they're always after in the West. Think that in a whole lifetime, it could be as destructive in real terms to a person's finances as hyperinflation is, which happens in a few years. Right. So all the hyperinflation does is give you a chance to experience by studying the damage that it does, what kind of effect it has on an economy when it happens in a compressed time period. So this is what I was talking to our accountant about. And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to read that book because that was a really interesting anecdote and story there." And it's true. You're getting a very compressed time curve when you read about hyperinflation. So this is one of the reasons I think reading something like this, whether or not you believe hyperinflation is coming here, or how to prepare for it, even though it might be. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the numbers, when you start really getting into the system, are so messed up and so convoluted, it's really difficult to say which way this bird's going to land. But suffice it to say, it's a good exercise in understanding what can happen in your own lifetime, and to say, well, if this is what happens when you compress the time curve, and you can see this, you can take some steps now to avoid having the same problems in your life in the coming years, which are lining up to have some pretty high inflation. In the last video, we went over some of the numbers that it started out in 98, 97, 98, 99, and they're starting to look very similar to what we're starting to experience now. So it seems to me like we're starting into the bottom of when the curve starts to take an uphill, when it's starting to first go uphill and it starts to go really steep. I think we're kind of right here in the beginning phase of it. So the rest of it will happen very quickly if it happens anything like what happened in Zimbabwe and in other hyperinflationary events. So it's not a lost exercise to study this stuff, in my opinion. And so again, I'm going to recommend the book for a second time in a second video. And no, it turns out I said before it would be backwards, but it actually isn't backwards. It's backwards for me, what I'm seeing right now, just in case you wanted to know that. But yeah, when money destroys nations, you know what, for whatever I paid for this book, even if I paid $50 for it, which I didn't, I probably paid 20. It's worth it. I recommend it. Go out and buy it. Have a great day, folks.